Hello and welcome to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Chris and welcome to the final team reveal. It's been a long journey, guys. I think we started. When does Supercoach actually open for Team Picker? I think it's like late December. A few months of hard work and listening to reports and going through thousands of different lineups, and we're finally, I think, ready for the season. I feel like this is the most preparation that I've probably done in an off season, which is pretty good. But today wasn't great. It was Ben's Bucks party last night, so we're a bit dusty. Ben was going to get on and try and do a record tonight, but I think he's a little bit worse for wear. So do wish him all the best. Obviously, his wedding is in a month. But yeah, we had an absolute cracker time. Ben was pretty upset with the whole Brisbane Carlton scenario the other night. So he made a drinking game that anyone that mentions the game or lost by a point or anything like that has to take a drink. So did make it a bit fun and all in good fun. And obviously good luck to the lad. And we move on. So there have been a few changes. I wouldn't say there's outrageous changes. But there's definitely been a few changes that have popped up, obviously, from the round zero. And when this was all happening, we definitely flagged that this is possibly, arguably, the best source of information we can get, probably ever in a Supercoach season, that you get actual roles and actual data that you can convert to choosing your teams. So it is pretty important to do. The preseason information that we got, only gets you so far because you're not entirely sure all the time, is it going to carry over to the season proper? And now we have that information. There were quite a few picks that I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm definitely going to go that way. So I will talk you through it, obviously, as we go. Obviously, Nick Dacos hasn't left. So, we go over him extensively, but 131. I didn't actually watch the game because I was at the Bucks last night, so I do need to go back through and watch the Pies GWS game. Now, obviously, from a Supercoach perspective, there really wasn't too much to take out of that game. I will talk through a few other picks as well that I'm interested in from the game. But yeah, it wasn't, for rookies' perspective, there wasn't really much going on. So I will definitely watch it, but I don't think it's going to influence much of my decision. So this is the first change. So not because I don't like Tom Stewart. I really do like Tom Stewart as a pick this year. I needed to free up some cash. And I had, if you've been following my series or preseason, you'll know that I've been pretty hot on Jaden Short. Last week, I mentioned that I wasn't necessarily interested because I didn't know what would happen to the kick-in role once Vlosten was back. And the kick-ins, surprisingly, Jaden Short still had 8 kick-ins, and I believe there was 13 behinds. So he had 8 kick-ins, 4 went to Vlosten, and then I'm not sure who the last one was. So he looks like he's not only got the primary distributor role out of halfback, but he also gets most of the kickouts and scored a juicy little 131. Now with that, also previous game where he had 9 kickouts and 120 Supercoach and looked kind of average, he actually looked quite good in a game where they absolutely got dominated by Gold Coast. So if that's going to continue and Richmond suck and they're going to get heavily scored against and Jaden Short looks like a lone hand back there, he could definitely go quite well this season, and I want to be on that. Obviously, he does have the bye, and so that's not the greatest thing, but I put him as a very, very high chance at top 6 defenders this year. And for his price, I'm kind of hedging him against a Harry Sheezel. So I know a lot of people are really hot on Sheezel, and for good reason. He's an absolutely fantastic player, and a really super coach dream sometimes. My thing with that is I just don't know if the role holds for the entire season, and so for that reason, I just want to sort of err with the side of caution and see what they're going to do, over the course of the season with Harry Sheezel. So hopefully, look, fingers crossed that doesn't blow back in my face, but I do understand that is a risk that I'm taking, especially because obviously Sheezel doesn't have the bye as well. So you're kind of giving him, you're almost giving Sheezel a 5-point head start there on Jaden Short. But at this stage, that's what I'm going with. And look, we'll see how we go. Feel free to tell me that I'm an idiot because I guarantee you this is the pick that might make or break my season so far. So, but I do like that pick. Obviously, Hayden Young hasn't left my team in a fairly long while. There's no reason to change that. Obviously, that in play. So, all the information that we currently have makes him a good pick. Elliot Yeo is still here at D4. Now, I was looking at potentially moving him down to Kitty Coleman. So I think halfway through that game, I was like, nah, Coleman's in. And then bang, he gets his ACL blown out. There goes that out the window. I've also considered moving him to Butterick. I did like Butterick's game against the Coast yesterday. Against Richmond yesterday. And there was a lot of waxing involved. I think he had 21 touches, and of those 21, 18 were kicks. I worry about a few things in that regard. I'm not sure which banana he is in the defence in terms of moving the football. I just don't know yet. I think if I was to pick a Butterick, I want to see a little bit more upside than what I'm seeing. I think he's maybe an 80 average, and I don't know if that's enough for 300k. Look, it might be, and I don't think he's a terrible pick. And if I wanted to free up money, then Yo down to Butterick makes more sense, I guess. But we'll have to just see how the season progresses. I'm not sold on a Butterick. Yo has a role. He's got a great role. He's the primary mid at West Coast there, and so that should yield scoring opportunities. The biggest problem that happened recently with that is Matt Flynn getting injured, which will restrict the amount of first possession ball that someone like an Elliot Yeo can get out of the midfield. So, do I think that he can be a keeper? Look, he's got the opportunity to be. He's obviously a proven scorer. He's got a bad injury history, though, of course, and I don't know if he can rekindle that kind of form. I'm more looking at, Yo can make me, 80 to 100k, and then I, flick him onto an Uber like a Stewart or a Sicily when they drop, or something like that. So that's more what I'm looking at in that position, but it's sort of a little bit here, a little bit there. He could turn into a keeper, and we just don't know. Now, Zach Williams, I had him out of my team before the weekend, and that first half was really good. He was somewhat subdued in the second half. I think his minutes were reduced, especially in that last quarter. And they mentioned that they were going to be managing his minutes, obviously, because they only played 65% game time in the VFL the week before, and so they are managing his load. So I get that, but his scoring dropped right off. I think he got up to 80 and then went backwards. So it's like, all right, well, what are we thinking in average? He hit a 73. He's probably an 80, and for 200k. That makes it worth it regardless. Obviously you've got Doherty's ACL. I don't think that changes anything in terms of his role, but it sort of shores up a little bit of job security, so that Doherty's not going to come back into that distributor role that we know he has. There's definitely more opportunity for the pill out of Williams' hand. Another person that could potentially steal kickouts or something like that that's not doing that. So. Something that really annoyed me, though, about the Blues on the night is that they were kind of just letting anyone take kickouts. I was like, no. Get the ball in Williams' hand. And in the second half, he did. I think he may have took 3 or 4. But they were all second half. So, we'll just one to monitor. I think you kind of got to start with him. But, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Now, I've gone with Howes here as an on-field option, obviously. He got a 91. It'll be interesting, though, to see how a couple of things are going to change. So, first and foremost, you'd probably say that with Bowie's injury, Salem probably comes back into the defence and they increase Oliver's midfield time. Like, he only had 60% CBAs. He could definitely get another 20% to... I think he was 85. He's an 85-ish% CBA midfielder. So... that's quite a large jump that he's still got to go in his progression. So I do think that potentially there's a little bit less ball for Howes moving forward, but we just don't know, don't have the information. And what we do have is a 91 in his cycle. So let's take that for what it is. At the moment, he looks like an on-field option, and we can go from there. I still do have Gibcus. I mean, Gibcus played quite well. His DT to SEO ratio this week was ridiculous. I think he only had 36 DT to 75-ish SC. And that's obviously from innocent marks and from spoils. That's where he gets his points from. And I know he's obviously a little bit expensive. You could probably go. There's quite a few other cheaper options. I just like it for the job security side of things. I'm going to need someone obviously in round 5 for day costs. He can come on field for that and maybe spike an 80 score. I don't mind that at all. And then I've got Reed here as well. Again, just more job security, these guys. Reed doesn't have an outstanding scoring profile, but these two are going to be rock solid in terms of job security. Obviously, the other ones you can go there, Caulfield, potentially, if he obviously gets named. I don't like his job security as much as others, but, other people do love that job security, apparently. So, guys like Toby Pink, you got guys like Ethan Phillips. There is quite a few options in defence, and I wouldn't be so worried about it because as long as you can, you've got pivot options if you need to make a correction trade or something like that, then I think you're all good. I probably wouldn't go down to say Williams at D4. I probably wouldn't do that. I don't necessarily love that balance. But there's an opportunity to because there's enough rookies to make it happen. And of course, what we saw over round 0 is pretty much a lot of other players putting their hands up that you may want to try and squeeze in. And one of the ways to do that is to potentially take out a premium in the defensive line and then throw it into the forward or midfield. So I get it. And so structure-wise, it might work. But it's not for me at this stage. So over the midfield, Bond hasn't changed. Still running with Bond at M1 at this stage. So I'll just hold on. There we go. Obviously he didn't play on the weekend. There's no reason to not have Bond at this stage in my team unless I need cash. But this team is kind of, again, what we've really done well in this team is we've got some really high-end premiums, some top tier premiums that have a chance at top 6 ranges or top 8 ranges. And then we've got some real great value options. So kind of a mix of all three in this game style and what we're trying to play this year. Seeking the value with the 40 trades and try and maximize, points, but also increase in overall team value. Now, the next one is Zach Butters. Now, I have been round and round and round and round and round and round my head. And I do not know what to make of a few things. First of all, I initially last week had Oliver in this spot. Now, he's gone in 90, and obviously he still actually played 82% time on ground, but did play a lot of time forward. And so even though he had 30 touches, just wasn't quite as clean with the ball as I'd like to have seen him with. You know that midfield time is coming, and they're going to obviously work him into the season, and that's fine. But that should mean obviously lower scores or lower ceilings. And that's what we saw on the weekend. So that 90 will at very least, even if he goes 120, 120 next 2 weeks, it'll stunt his initial cash growth and it'll probably drop 30, 40K quite easy. And so for that reason, I went, well, I could get him at his buy, probably 50 grand cheaper at a minimum. So it's probably worth fading, even though I really, 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 really want him. My issue, and possibly one of the reasons why I went for a Clary option, is I'm really just not sold on most of the midfield options. There isn't one that's screaming pick me to me. And Butters was obviously in my team all pre-season, and I have the issue with Butters where I don't really know 100% what his role is. What I know about Butters, if he has the role, he is a lock. I also know that he's had previous ankle issues, and he's had 2 rolled ankles in this pre-season. So he did a syndesmosis back in 2021 and took him out for basically half the season. Then they eased him back. And every time that, Butters, for whatever reason, seems to have an injury, Hinkley does this thing where he'll ease him back into the games. And if you have a look there, even there last year when he got injured in the preseason, the first 3 rounds of the season, they basically put him basically as a mainstay forward instead of an on-baller. And his scoring dropped through the floor. And then as soon as he went back into the midfield, it went through the roof. And the cutoff is at 60% CBAs. Zach Williams was averaging, anytime he got over 60%, he would average 121. That makes him a very, very almost a value premium if he's going to get that role. Now, the argument for this is that obviously when they started winning last year, it was basically off the back of Zach Butters being moved into the midfield. So, are they happy to risk the fact that he might be a little bit underdone going into the season because they want to make this year count? Which Hinkley, he's an idiot, but yeah, I just have a couple of question marks about that. He's, to me, the best option if the role's all there. Next best in someone who I really liked. I've liked all preseason. He's obviously going to be a fairly good Supercoach player for us for a long time, and he played really well. Apparently, I didn't get the game. Is Tom Green? So he punched out a 132. My issue with Tom Green has always been generally his DT to SC ratio just doesn't quite work out. But this week it did. So I think he had 116 DT, 132 SC. So it's a plus 16, which means he probably used the ball a lot better. And I will have to watch the game to be able to work that out. My issue with Tom Green is how he uses his disposals. It's not the fact that he gets them, because he gets that high contested possession rate. He knows how to find the football. He knows how to win clearance. Obviously, he's a big boy. Knows how to lay a tackle. The issue is when he gets it, a lot of the time he either handballs backwards, which unfortunately is actually a zero score. Like an uncontested backward handball is a zero score. So I need to get him to start going forwards, of course, or kick more. So yeah, there's I love Tom Green, but yeah, for him to be an absolute elite Supercoach mid, which means 120 plus is a potential, I need to see that element of his game spike a little bit or change a little bit. And I think as he refines his craft and gets going to be a little bit more Clary-esque, I guess, is probably how I would say. That's an opportunity. I'm off, obviously, Errol. I don't like that pick at this stage. I think he'll have a good 4 weeks, so you can jump on if you're so inclined, because his next 4 opponents, last year he averaged, I think it was like 150 against the next 4 opponents. So I wouldn't be worried too much about his score, but that score means he probably will drop cash in round 4. So hopefully, if he doesn't go like 150 and he just goes, say, a 110 average over the next 4 weeks, you should be able to pick him up maybe 30, 40, 50K cheaper. So again, that's a cash play, but it's also, we all know what Goulden can do. What we also know is that Goulden actually doesn't perform better with higher CBA numbers. And he obviously is getting a little bit more inside mid-time with the Adams injury and the Parker injury. So, does that negatively impact his scoring, or was this an anomaly? He still did some freakish, Goulden-like things on the weekend. It just wasn't all there clicking. He wasn't finding the space that he usually does. And so, I'm just a little bit off that pick. But Dawson's one that I really like. I really like the Dawson pick, but I just don't think that I'm married to it, I guess, is probably how it is. Obviously, with Track, I'm not interested with Track with Clary back in the team. Led with that mooted forward time. Like, who knows what that is? That could just be fluff, to be completely honest. I don't mind Libba as an option if you were looking at that way, but I do want to sort of mitigate my risk profile with midfielders. So, sometimes, and this isn't all the time, but if, let's say, the Dogs get absolutely trounced in one game in midfield, you're holding 2 of them, there's a slightly higher risk. What we've generally seen over the course of a year is it doesn't really make a difference. So you could definitely run 2 of the same team, and we have before, we've seen it before. Last year we saw it. Dane Swan and Pendlebury, those sort of days. It's definitely, you can do it. Or even Petraka and Oliver now. It's not like I wouldn't do it, but just mitigates your risk a little bit. Zach Merritt, obviously, again, so we won't be touching him until his Marvel home games run, which I think it begins in like round 8 or 9. I was really happy with Dunkley right up until halftime, and then had to get rid of him. He looked unbelievable. He was destroying Carlton almost single-handedly. He was just so brilliant in there. I think at one stage he was tagging Cripps, and then just sort of faded in the second half and just didn't score much. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not interested in that. LDU, obviously from the preseason, he just didn't really shine a light on anything. I think you could still definitely pick him. He probably comes out week 1 and goes 140, and then everyone goes, why didn't I? Sarong, as I said, I'm still not quite on that train. Just don't know where it sits in regards to who is the leading midfielder there. Is it Fife now, or obviously Young's there as well? That midfield mix has changed, and I think maybe slightly Caleb Sarong's role, and I think therefore his ceiling might be slightly capped. Neil, I was actually pretty impressed with, to be fair. I think he scored quite well. Don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I do like the Neil pick. But then everything else below that, it's kind of like, I'm not really too interested. So that's where my mids, my uber premium mids finish now. And that's probably one of the biggest differences that we've had in the team. Someone that has gone, not from a purpose of I don't like the pick, but just because it just doesn't fit right now, is Jack Steele. So I'm going straight to Nick Martin here at M3. Obviously with a view to move him back in round 6. And then Matt Crouch at pick. So I had to go from Steele down to Crouch, I think, in this iteration, because I just needed the extra money. And look, I think numbers-wise, will they be able to do... I think Steele has a much higher ceiling. There's a very, very, very small chance that Steele comes out and goes 115 plus. But it's a chance. I don't think there's a chance that Matt Crouch can do that. I'd be ecstatic with Matt Crouch if he went 105 to 110 and managed to be like a long-term M8. Like, that would be great. That would be a best-case scenario, probably. Whereas, best-case scenario for Jack Steele, for only really 30... I think it's actually... works out to be 40k more. He's a top, bona fide top 10 mid, right amongst it. So, yeah. Obviously, I'm still on the Ollie Wines train, so he comes in at M5 for us. So a little bit of a value midfield, but one thing that I love about my midfield is that there are no early buys or double buy games. So you get the opportunity to maximize value and points on field while other people are running guys like Tom Green and Errol Goulden in your midfield, etc. I won't have that, or even a Tuke Miller, for example. Now, on to the rookies. Everyone has, the same pretty much, I think. One thing I've done here, though, and this is one of the reasons why I've gone down to 5 instead of 6 in this midfield, is I've worked out I really want to get Hustwaite on field. And so, being able to push him into an M8 position, I can take advantage of his early Will Day less games. So he'll probably get a higher CBA rotation early, and I want to try and maximize that in terms of our points on field setting. So I put him there. You could run Matt Roberts, obviously, on field if you really wanted to. Or if you weren't necessarily sold on Hustwaite's scoring ability or anything like that, you could run him on field for sure. But I think it does start to get a bit thin in the midfield ranks in terms of rookies for the bench. We've had Jeremy Sharp, unfortunately. He went down in the waffle in the third quarter. Now, they say it was, it might have been precautionary and he still could be a chance for round 1. But at this stage, I'm not going with Jeremy Sharp for that reason. I don't want to be, I have to pick that guy. But there'll be someone around his price point. Now, the problem is there really isn't many others that I would say are great 123k mid and below. What we did get, though, is we got a guy called Jack Carroll who scored a 65. He was the sub in the game. Came on when Doherty did his ACL, basically right on the smack bang of halftime as well. So he played the third quarter. In quarter 3, he had 60 Supercoach and kicked a really great running goal. And then only 5 Supercoach in last quarter. Got a bit of the pill, but did turn it over and had a couple of clangers. So 65 on debut in a half a footy is pretty damn good. And of course, now that Doherty is injured, there is an opportunity for him potentially to slip into the 22. So we'll see. We'll get to see that. Obviously, he needs to be named. But I wouldn't be surprised if he is a mainstay mid for the coming weeks. At this stage, I need someone at that price point to make this squad work. So he's as good as any for now. It could be Sharp, by round 1, but we'll have a look and we'll make that decision when we come to it. Obviously, Jai Clark is part of that 123k guy, so there is, one of them. But yeah, Jai Clark is in that mix. Gorn, of course, I'm not touching. Yeah, I'm not messing with that. Like, obviously Grundy absolutely killed him. That was a bath. That was an absolute whitewash. Um, and I don't think I've seen Max Gorn be that well beaten in a long time, to be completely honest. But people saying, oh yeah, like he's been worked out now. Everyone's going to do that. I'm like, yeah. Do you not think that Grundy is going to Gorn is going to work that out and do different tactics and try different things to be able to overcome it and be able to overcome it because he is arguably the best ruckman we've seen in probably since Dean Cox. Um, I'm backing Max Gorn at his price to be at least top two ruck. So that's great. Now with Grundy, obviously, I think he's an absolute lock. He definitely proved that he's still got that scoring ability. His second and third efforts were really good. He was following up. He was arguably their best mid in a game where Isaac Heaney went absolutely ham, and he was fantastic. So yeah. Now at this stage, I still have Naismith here. So like, if I need to free up say 20k, I can definitely pull it from here. I don't know what we're going to do with Naismith because he scored a 90. He scored the most from a rookie perspective on round 0. So he's going to have a great break even, but I don't think he gets to round 3. So look, at some point if Nant gets injured or they want to run 2 rucks or whatever, they probably will get Naismith in and he probably will make you cash at some point during the season. But I can definitely understand if he's not announced this week because Nank's back, maybe just running a loop there and seeing how you go. The thing is, the bad thing about running a loop at R3 is that you're locked for the entire season. Like, you can't trade him because you got to trade him up. You have to put money on a 1 or 2k guy to be able to even get Naismith, right? Like, it's a bad situation to be in. You lock yourself into that for the entire year. If you do have, say, a Luke Jackson at F1 or something like that, then I can understand because you'll need the ruck forward flexibility anyway. But at the moment, rather run with Naismith, and then fingers crossed he gets 3 games early. But if not, he will probably get 3 games at some point during the season and start making some actual money. And hopefully then we can downgrade him to a ruck forward or something similar. I have seen people do, say, a loophole ruck forward at, say, F7 or F8, running Naismith, and then the ability to obviously flip them at any time from a forward rookie perspective. That is an option. I'm not against, running a loophole, but you got to remember as well, with the early buys, we're going to have 4 of the first 6 rounds. We have automatically got loophole players for them. So I'm not necessarily, all gung-ho about loopholes this year, and I would prefer to, if I can, get a cash cow in that position. So obviously the big thing that happened, Gold Coast came to town, and they absolutely tore a new one through Richmond. Sam Flanders back to his old role. So the role that we thought he was going to be is the 4th banana in that midfield. But I want to stress something that happened here. So the big thing for me and why I'm locking him in is he had 58% CBAs, which is incredibly high. It's higher than I think most of his midfield sprouts last year. And they ran 4 exclusive midfielders for the entire day. That's it. So they ran Raul. He had 96 CBAs. Now, fair enough. He absolutely killed it. So you can't discourage that. Raul had a game to remember, that's for sure. But 96% CBAs is incredibly high and not sustainable. They then had Took, who had 80% CBAs. What did I say last week? Is he going to be the 80% midfielder that we know? Well, maybe he is. Maybe they're actually saying, actually, let's give Took 80%. So Took could be a really good pick, and I really don't mind the pick, to be honest. But the early buy, and I just want to see it a little bit more. Don't have the cash. If I could get Crouch up to Took or Steele, I probably would, but it is a considerable jump. So I understand that. And then I would have another round 3 buy player, which obviously is just a little bit harder to manage. And then Anderson had 77%, 78% CBAs. That's it. There was no one else. No one else got any mid-time at all, or any CBA time. So that's impressive because that tells me that they consider they've got 4 mids and they're going to rotate them as much as possible. That's awesome. Now, he's currently only in 23% of teams, so it's only actually gone up 2% over the last 2 days, which is, I think, a bit crazy But I think some people are somewhat sort of locked into their structures at the moment, and they're not willing to change it or to modify it, or they still want to run, five deep defenders or whatever it may be. I find my team now far more balanced than I have all preseason, and so I'm feeling a lot more comfortable now. Yes, I don't have the five huge super uber duper mids, whatever. Cool, man. And look, that might be the way to go. I'm just not playing that way this year. So if you've heard my previous podcast, etc., you'll know that I'm playing a value game here. Value Flanders at his price. If he averages, I think it was 107. I want to say, which was what he averaged after the buy. Like that's an easy F1, and at 494k, I want to be on that. Can you wait until his buy? Yes, because obviously his price won't go up until after his buy. So you technically could wait, and I understand that. It just fits my structure. Like waiting is more like, okay, well, like how do you correct out of that? Like who from? Are you going to like correct from, say, Jackson? Like, and then what's the point of that? I kind of feel like it's a waste of a trade. I'd rather just bank it and deal with it. So we'll see how we go. But yeah, at this stage, Flanders is in for me. I get why you wouldn't. So he's not a lock of a pick. I get that. But for me, he's in. Secondary to that, Isaac Heaney. Come on down. I have previously hated on Isaac Heaney, something chronic. So I get it. I totally get it. If you don't want Heaney, you don't want the risk, I get it. I mean, look at my team, man. It's got heaps of risk in it. Look at it's got Yo Williams, short over Sheasel, Isaac Heaney. Starting with Flanders, we got Crouch and Wines, like Nick Martin. There is a lot of risk in this team, but I feel like it's managed risk and well thought out. It's not like I don't throw this team together and go, oh yeah, this is going to win super good. Like these are all well researched picks. I understand the risks involved with them. What I saw from Heaney, and I did some research on Heaney, basically is the first time that you've really seen inside mid Heaney. Over the last trackable years of Supercoach, which is in terms of CBA numbers, they go back to 2019. He's only had 3 other games where you could say he was a mainstay centre bounce mid, and even then, it was 49%, 48%, and one game of 74%. Where actually we think was tagging in that game, he only got a 75. But the other 2 scores was like 142 or something like that, and a 96. So 2 140 scores, one kind of aberration score of a 75, and then a solid 96. That's a 113 average over those 4 games. So very small sample size. But look, we've all been waiting for Isaac Heaney to be the inside midfielder. It finally happens and everyone goes, nah, don't do it. I don't trust Horse. I listened to his comments after the game and they might have wanted to push him forward. Yeah, cool. Push him a bit more forward. If he's a 50% centre bounce mid, it raises his floor substantially. The biggest problem with Heaney is that he has a very low floor because he plays a lot forward, and then some games he goes massive, and then other games he just goes a 50. If you are playing more midfield, you should be able to increase that floor so that your average also increases. So instead of getting 50s, he's getting 80s in those bad games, or badder games. He was already arguably fighting for a top 6 forward berth anyway because of the low averages in the forward line. Now he could legitimately be an F1. At his price, his super value, he could potentially average your 105. I don't hate that. And sure, you can jump on Heaney after his buy. Heaney might blow you out the water though, and he might be 100k more expensive by then. Between him and his buy, I think there's 3 price rises. So round 0, he's already had a 140, 1, 2. So price goes up in round 2, round 3, round 4, and then 3 price rises. If he gets, if he goes on a heater and goes 120 over the next, 5 weeks, he will make I'm estimating here, but I assume about 100 grand over that time. It'll be interesting to see if people are happy to wait that long, or if they'd correct to him, or whatever happens. I get this might be a short-term fix. Like it might only be until Parker's back from injury, but usually what we've seen in the past, especially with Horse, is that and Parker is a multi-talented player, and so is technically, I guess, Taylor Adams to a lesser extent. They could potentially just swing Parker back through and play him as a majority a majority forward, which they have done previously as well, where they've reduced his mid time to almost nothing, coming back from injury or because it suited the team or whatever it may be. Heaney goes on a tear here and proves that he's actually a midfielder. Yeah, it's over, gents. So yeah, I like the pick. Again, don't like the buy. One thing though I've done to mitigate that is that I've taken out James Jordan. So in this team, don't have Jordan, don't have Harms, don't have Billings. Good thing I don't have Billings because he was a sub and he was terrible. But he's out, definitely. Now, did I like Jordan's game? Yes. Do I think that Jordan should be in most teams? Also, yes. I don't think you can run a Jordan and a Heaney in the same forward line and get through that bye. I just don't think you can. So, especially because you've already got, most are going to have Grundy now, and most are also going to have Dacos. So, you would be really, really pushing it uphill to achieve that. So, yeah, to mitigate that risk, I've actually taken Jordan out. Now, we've got an 82 at his price. Yeah, that's great. What I wanted to see out of Jordan was a premium price for a premium scoring for 270k. Now, obviously, that's unrealistic. He's most likely a guy that averages you 80, 85 or whatever, and is a stepping stone to a premium. But I'm already starting 2 premiums in the forward line, so I'm a little bit further ahead than most in the forward line. So, I don't begrudge anyone for doing it, and I like the pick. I just don't have it in here. Straight to Fisher. So obviously he's still a lock at F3. Still have Fife. So obviously this is I could go Jordan here, but again you have that double bye risk. So I still like Fife with that role. Harley Reid, of course, we still have. And Sexton we still have. So Sexton, wasn't as dominant this week as he was in previous weeks, but he was waxing. Still had over 20 touches. Took some kick-outs. Looked good. I like him. Now, on the bench, Darcy Wilson still there. Here's the thing. There's 2 guys I'd like to look at. Windsor and Lazaro. Now, what I'll say about Windsor. 2 games. In one game. Looked good. Had 11 possessions, kicked 2 goals, scored quite well. Next game, 13 possessions. I don't think he got a goal. Scored around 59 Supercoach. Looked good, right? I think that there's just other rookies you can get to produce those sort of numbers. To average like 60, maybe they don't necessarily have the job security of, say, a Caleb Windsor. But 11 and 13 touches is just not good enough. Like, I don't think that's not going to set the world on fire. There'll be a game where he has 11 touches and he only goes for 30 Supercoach or something silly. So I don't love that he doesn't accumulate the ball enough. That's my one gripe with him. Is his job security good? Yep. If you've got the money, should you be getting him? Probably. But yeah, I'm not sold on the pick and I'm not married to it. Lazaro, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Simpkin out. Does it mean that Will Phillips comes in? We saw in the Pracky match that when Will Phillips came in, that meant much more mid-time for Will Phillips and much less mid-time for Charlie Lazaro and more forward time. Because what we know about Will Phillips is he's an inside mid. He's not really a forward. So if you're playing him as a mid. And Lazaro can play high half forward and rotate through, which would limit his upside. So I want to see that. Also, obviously, they're both quite expensive picks, but they do both have question marks. The one bad thing is, realistically, I'd like to go Cadman at this pick, but I'm like 1,000 short. Also, here's the issue with Cadman. He has the same buy as obviously Sexton and Flanders, and I've got to cover them both in the round 3 buy. So how do I do that if if one of my bench players also has that buy? You can't. So I need to kind of select someone that doesn't have the round 3 buy. I'm still going at this point with Buku Kamas because another one option would be Harvey Thomas, who didn't play terribly but didn't score great. But he also, of course, has that buy. So can't roll onto that. I still like Buku. I think that he's going to be a decent opportunity. And I do like the fact that he will get defender forward status, which allows me to flip Fisher and Buku later on in the season. So don't hate that option. Obviously, there's there are a few other sort of 123Ks, Steely Green and a few other guys. I feel like, to me, at the moment, Buku's the best at that price range, but that might change. Obviously, we're going to have some more information, team lists, etc., that come out later this week, that could alter that. So there you have it, guys. 2,900 left in the kitty. As I said, 2,900 doesn't actually get me up to Cadman there in that position. Obviously, if I need to make some more cash or to generate a little bit more income to get another rookie option, I can go Naismith down. One guy that we'll have to monitor this week is Kai Lohman. So he was a sub last week, but Coleman down. So does Lohman come in and play that halfback role, or do they look towards Ainsworth, who was an emergency last week? Does he come in as an experienced guy? I'm not too sure what happens there, but if it's Lohman that comes into that, I know he's 150K, but that would be a situation where I'd probably make the switch and it goes Naismith down to Livingston, and then Buku up to Lohman, if I can do that, if that's going to get me enough money. So, a few options there I'm weighing up, but I really like the balance in terms of structure. So, I don't like to call them sort of this because I have a lot of value, let's say value premiums, not real premiums. I'm going to sort of bunch them all up into experienced premiums versus rookies or mid prices. So essentially, I would consider Yo an experienced premium. I'm not expecting him to be a bona fide top 10 pick, but he could be. But there 4, and I suppose Williams is technically a rookie, but rookie price, but mid pricer and rookie. The 5 and the 3 in the midfield. So going guns and rookies in the midfield, but the guns are again experienced premiums. The two that I haven't literally switched out of the ruck at all, and then a rookie on the bench, and then in the forward line, I would say that Fisher is a very high chance of top 6. So it's almost like 3 premiums there, and then 1 mid-pricer and 2 rookies. So a little bit more balanced. Technically, there's I think 13. So if you count Yo as part of a premium, whatever, there's 4, there's 5, that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 plus Fisher. But obviously, when you're going the value ride, you can get to that 13th option, as long as it's another value option. So a little bit deeper than most teams currently, but not as high end. So something to be aware of there, guys. Anyway, I hope you like the team. Thank you for coming on board for us for this entire preseason. It's been an absolute blast. Ben's reveal is going to be in the morning, so he's going to be doing that for you guys. And I think Swizz has already done his, so jump on there. There will be some more content coming out later this week, as it's in terms of joint pods and things like that. And I can't wait to get into the actual Supercoach season. Round 0 behind us. Let's get on with round 1. All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.